As someone who works as a data analyst in a commercial bank, let me tell you what data analysts actually spend their 40 hours per week working time doing in a financial service sector. When people hear data analyst in financial services, they usually imagine someone only building dashboards or just writing SQL queries. But in reality, that is not the whole picture of the job. A huge part of the job is something completely different. It's about translating regulatory policies into data analysis. In other words, turning complex financial regulations into metrics, reports, and insights. And in this video, I will show you how data analysts actually get that done. Financial institutions operate in one of the most regulated industries in the world. Banks, fintech companies, and financial institutions constantly have to comply with regulations from bodies like Central Bank of Nigeria, Securities and Exchange Commission Nigeria, Financial Action Task Force, and the likes. And these regulations are designed to ensure financial stability, consumer protection, fraud prevention, and anti-money laundering compliance. But here's the challenge. Regulations are written as policy documents. They are not written as data queries or dashboards. And that's where data analysts come in very, very handy. A data analyst in financial services often acts as a translator between policy and data. So think of it like this. Regulator says bank must monitor suspicious transactions. But that statement raises a lot of questions. What type of transactions actually count as suspicious? How large is the transaction we're talking about here? How frequent? What pattern triggers an alert? These policy requirements must be converted into measurable metrics, monitoring rules, and automated reports. And that's where data analytics becomes critical for financial services. So let's take a simple example. A regulation might say something like this: financial institution must report unusual transaction activity. So to translate that into actual analytics task or project, a data analyst might define rules like transactions above a certain threshold. So I can say when a transaction that comes in is greater than, say, 20 million naira as an example. Here's another rule: multiple transfers within a short period, like say transfer coming in within 1 minute or every 30 seconds, right? The third one is transactions across high-risk region in the country. Then the fourth rule is sudden changes in customer behavior. Say a customer whose average monthly transaction is 500,000 naira. Then the person does a transaction volume of 10 million naira in a day. That is a red flag. For example, an analyst might write SQL queries that flag account exceeding transaction limits, abnormal transaction pattern, sudden spikes in activity. So that flagged data can then be reviewed by the compliance or the audit team, whatever the case may be. Another key task is building regulatory monitoring dashboards. These dashboards help financial institutions track things like transaction volumes, fraud indicators, compliance metrics, risk exposure, and all of that. For example, a dashboard might show daily suspicious transaction alerts, flagged account requiring review, regulatory reporting status. And this helps the risk team or the compliance team quickly understand whether the institution is meeting regulatory expectations. So now let's talk about the collaboration that exists with other teams. In financial services, data analysts rarely work alone. They collaborate closely with risk teams, compliance officers, auditors, product teams, business owners, and all of that. Compliance experts understand the regulations, and the data analysts on the other side understand the data systems. And so together, they turn regulatory requirements into data-driven monitoring systems. So if you want to work as a data analyst in a financial service, say a bank or a fintech, these are some skills that you will require: Excel, SQL, data visualization tool, and data quality analysis as well. But equally important is your domain skills, such as understanding financial regulations, interpreting policy documents, also communicating insight clearly. This is also a skill that is very, very important, because the job isn't just about analyzing numbers. It's also about making sure the financial institution operates safely and responsibly. And one of the most interesting parts of working in financial service data analytics is realizing that data is deeply connected to policy and regulation. So behind many dashboards and reports, there's actually a regulatory requirement driving them. Those dashboards are not just there because they are fancy or because the data analyst has a lot of time on his or her hands. Data analysts help transform those policies, those rules into practical monitoring systems. And that works really plays a huge role in keeping financial systems transparent and secure. So when people ask you what do data analysts actually do in financial services, the answer isn't just building dashboards or writing SQL queries, even though that is also a key part of their job. However, it is transforming complex financial rules into data insights that the organizations can act on. And that makes data analysts an important part of how modern financial system really operates. So if you're interested in data analytics in financial services, comment below. I would like to know, would you rather work in a fintech or in banking or in risk analytics team or as an audit data analyst? And if you want more videos about real world data analytics career and projects, subscribe to this channel, because in subsequent videos we'll talk more about the tools and the approach that data analysts working in financial services use every single day, how they move from policies and regulations to actual data analytics projects. So I see you in the next one. Bye.